Hello, this is Leanne with Markigy. Today I'm joined by Chloe Addis, and she is simply amazing. We connected on LinkedIn. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Chloe, go ahead and tell us about your background to shape the conversation.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for having me, Leanne. Yeah, I'm a head of marketing currently at Headley Media, and I have 12 years experience in B2B marketing. So yeah, I feel like our connection was kind of well timed. Come on to kind of chat about my soapbox. um, but yeah, I think there's a kind of I've been in a lot of different kind of B2B situations and companies. So kind of big and small, and see kind of the same situations, challenges and problems. And so hopefully it's something that lots of other people are going to relate to as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of years experience focusing on the same things really. I think the headaches that marketers face are the same things again and again that come up, aren't they?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that one of the things that really aligned us was just kind of our point of view on doing things the right way instead of just doing them for, a quantity perspective. So I don't want to steal too much from your soapbox, but what is the thing that you think that marketers should know, directors should know, VP, CMOs, boards that like they're just kind of like not getting.
Yeah, so I think where I'm at the moment is that I think that people should really be focusing on the trust between sales and marketing teams. And I know that this is not going to be like new and revolutionary to people, but I think the prioritization of it should be based on kind of, what's going on in the world, the introduction of AI and how kind of coming back to like real world relationships and things like this, people like marketers in particular, myself included, always focus on their audience of who they're trying to reach and they forget the internal marketing piece. So that 101, like it's trust, it's build exactly what you're trying to do with your audience, but doing it internally because it is such a huge headache for so many people. And kind of like I said, across small businesses, large businesses, like everyone is in a different situation, but facing the same kind of problems. And if you don't have it, there's that real kind of stickiness of we're doing this, they're doing that. We're trying to say how good, in the reporting, we're trying to communicate, but it's not. It's landing on deaf ears, and you're getting the feedback. Oh, MQLs are rubbish. They're like, we don't trust marketing. They're filling the pipeline, and we can't rely on them. And these kind of conversations that are really damaging your internal brand, and you don't get that like the time or the freedom. Like whereas if everything is aligned and you've got this kind of there's so many state. I mean, I'm just like, yeah, if everything is aligned, it's so much easier said than done. So but like, and obviously we'll get into it, but I mean, once if you can address some of those issues from the start, the alignment on ICP, how you're reaching them, like all of the context, because the context is what gets lost. But like kind of all of that information, once that's freed up, or you have this kind of open conversation and a little bit more alignment than what most people currently have, um, helps you to be able to focus on your stuff more freely. So like the things that you want to do. For example, if you're aligned on that revenue, you have the thread between sales and marketing and those revenue numbers, and you can pinpoint what's come through marketing because you're kind of on the same page, communicating, talking their language. um you've got that internal bind, so it allows you, when you're having a conversation with finance, the CFO, you're going to them asking for more money for other stuff. It allows you to do that if you've already proven and embedded into sales, and you can point to the ROI, etc. Then you're allowed to get on with what you love as a marketer. So I think that's why it's sort of first things first for me, and kind of always has been, always will be, and then you're allowed to, like, go ahead and do the marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Pardon me. And I'm thinking through like conversations on, this is almost like a recurring theme in some of the
Mhm.
episodes. And I
Yeah.
want to make sure that we get like your unique perspective. So, I think that trust is definitely part of one of the pillars of the Markigy, Leanne, how we do marketing vibe.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and so, I don't want to talk that to death, but at the same time, I want to hear more about like your perspective from like where your work sits in the funnel and kind of like that part of it too.
So, yeah, absolutely. The work that I'm doing as marketing, like marketing to marketers, is like what we already said. And so it is, and certainly like from a Headley Media perspective, focused on the MQL level. And kind of that's, as I kind of was alluding to, like the feedback, and kind of general consensus can so easily be swayed into MQLs are dead, and like, this kind of whole rhetoric, that marketers love to hate. So like, and it happens like with everything. Like you see it with like SEO. SEO is dead now because of AI and LLMs. And I don't know if you heard, but all
Yeah.
these, it's like, oh, okay, we say it so that it like causes conversation to happen, and that's great, but we're kind of also damaging our own brand, like as marketers, because then sales and people pick up on these things and they're like, oh well, do MQLs even work anymore? And it's like, okay, we need to unpick this, because they do. Like, it's not that, like, you can't just like brand the whole thing. Yeah, that's over. But it is about alignment. It is about trust, and having those conversations early in setting up, why aren't they good MQLs? Well, are you not, is the ICP different from a marketing perspective? Is the just the meaning of an MQL, has marketing thinks it's one thing, sales is expecting to be able to ring up these leads, and there's just that huge kind of, nobody's been setting expectations, but they're not talking the same language. So it's kind of like something that we found, or what I found, internally as well, is like we've kind of developed this new language around qualified outbound. So we're really trying to, like, and that to me as a marketer, I go, what's a qualified outbound? But like from a sales perspective, those are like outbound, they immediately understand, oh, this needs work. Like it's not just someone who's like, it's not a hand raiser, it's somebody who I need to prospect as well. But then you've got that pre-qualified element of it. So what you're saying is, as marketing handing over a qualified outbound, you would be saying, we've done that work, like that's embedded into these leads that we've got. We've already thought it, like way earlier in the process, when we were doing the targeting, we agreed the ICP, the location, the exact names, and who's in the buying committee. Like, it's not just one person that we're trying to target. Like, we could get into that as well, but that's a whole other subject, I think. But it's kind of really, you, by saying that, you're packaging it in a way that sales are understanding, whether it's like, and then you have the control over this pre-agreed, predefined like definition between the two kind of departments. So that's something that we really kind of see working, and the kind of at the bottom of the funnel. But again, there's so many other points within sales and marketing that, like, this whole trust element can, um, unlock so much more.
Yeah. And I think that your point about language is
Mm,
really impactful.
mm,
So I love that phrase, like qualified outbound, because you know, to your point of like, you know, marketing thinks it means one thing, sales thinks it means another,
Yeah.
is like bridging that communication gap, I think is really where that like power of trust like turns up and turns on. And you're right, like an MQL means one thing to one set of people. Like, yeah, like you need to go do your work. And they might think like, oh, the work is done. I just need to like sign them up. And
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
two very different opportunities.
100%. And it's through different like companies that I've worked in. It's like you don't only have a different definition of an MQL from company to company, but within inside the same companies, there can be a misalignment from a marketing team that's based in Europe and one that's based in the US. You've got like they're not even agreed. So how kind of cross departments meant to be aligned on this? It really comes back to the bare bones of it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we should just have internal glossaries.
Yeah. I mean, that would help, right?
Yeah. On the company like inner portal, could you please look up the definition for how we use this word?
Yeah.
It would actually be a really great internal
I
marketing
mean,
system.
yeah, I think absolutely. And to your point, this is like what we forget about marketing as well is always, you know, I sit on like the weekly sales call with my sales team, and that's how kind of embedded I like to be. But it's like if you can't if you're not experiencing that, like, you have to take yourself outside all of your day to day, because all of the acronyms and things like this. They hear you say the acronyms once a month, they're not doing it. They don't know. They're not doing it day to day. They're not doing what you're doing day to day. So it's like when you hear what someone else does in your company, you think, oh, that's great. That's really interesting. And then I don't know about you, but I'm like, oh, that's gone. Like, if that was 5 minutes ago, I'm really interested, but I don't know your language for the things that you do day to day. And we just forget that. And so I think yeah, we could have an internal glossary, but I think at the start of every one of those, we've all been in the same like reporting meetings where we're reporting on all of the abbreviations that we have: click through rate, the CTR, the average, this, that, the other, the kind of abbreviations and acronyms. We just forget that people don't know what they mean, and we are talking a different language. It's not them, it's we're trying to get them to understand something. What we want is buy-in, and yet we're talking another language. I think there's often, it's like we need to do some meet in the middle rather than be like, sales don't understand us. We're so misunderstood.
We're the teenagers.
Yeah.
But I love that. I think that, to build upon what you're saying too is back to your point earlier about context, right? I don't know even if someone understood what a click-through rate like meant on paper, if they understood the significance or context of what it means within the larger campaign and why, and how that impacts whether we see it as successful or unsuccessful, or, like what that felt like for even the customer.
Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah, I mean, it's communication and trust.
Yeah, I think, and that's just it. We again, like we have the amnesia. We forget that they don't know, like what the context is. A salesperson receiving a lead, they want as much color to that lead as possible. We think, oh well, this is the campaign. I told you about the campaign. Of course, you know what the content is that they've read, but there's a couple of things. There's like not having that line of communication, or what I think is quite a common problem is not having the information in the right place, or not having these systems talking to each other. It's so even we have all of the marketing information in HubSpot, and then we have Salesforce for all of the sales, and that's a really common setup, whatever CRM system you're using. But yeah, they talk to each other, but you've still got to know they talk to each other in one word sentences. They're not like, having conversations. So I think that's kind of one of the main things as well, is it's like, I view it as my responsibility to be adding that information, or at the point of handover, of, okay, here's what they've interacted with, what they like, all of the things as well, not just, okay, they came in off the back of this ad, but everything that we have, and kind of it's all of that context that turns the lead from something of like the conversation into, you downloaded this white paper. And then it's like, no, okay, we're moving the conversation. If I've given you context of what content they're interested in, which gives an idea of where they are in their buying cycle, all of that kind of color, and information is going to help the pipeline, isn't it? And then that relationship becomes much more positive, and you're going to have the feedback. Oh, that lead that you gave me an essay on, almost, is like, you can it's going to make that whole process much more trackable, and it's just, the relationship is well oiled then, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it also at least gives them, it empowers the sales team to have a place to start the conversation.
Mm,
Um,
yes.
and I think that's really what our job is to enable them, and I think that I'm all for, like first of all, to your point, MQLs aren't dead. Lead scoring not dead, right? None of this is dead. It is
No.
important to do. But to your point about adding context to it, what white papers did they see? What things did they interact with? Having that enriched information really at least gives a place for the sales team to pick up the baton and keep going with the sprint, the relay
Yeah.
race.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, we could lead score them one way and they could be like 1 out of 10. But leads need to still get handled. Just because it's a low scoring lead doesn't mean it should just be dropped. It costs money
Yeah.
to get that lead, and maybe they just have DuckDuckGo or, whatever, one of these privacy browsers, and
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
So, I think that providing the information we do have lets sales do their jobs better.
Mhm.
And that's pretty important.
Yeah, and I mean, we're the ones with the whole content plan, so to help them with the next stages as well. It's obviously, you're not going to handhold the whole thing, but if you want them to be giving you information at the end when it
Yes.
closes, if it's close lost or close win or whatever, if you want more information than just, oh, it lost, if you want why, so that you can fill that backfill into your marketing and make it better the next time, and hit the pain points, and all of that, then why can't you do the additional, like, you've got a whole content calendar, you've laid out the buyer journey and have different content for different points of time, so enable that, like, and I think that's, sales enablement piece, but it's part of the wider kind of relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Normally one of the prompts would be like, tell me a story about how this works. But like, I feel like that's what we've been chatting about.
Of
Um,
course. Yeah.
what is like when wouldn't it work? Or like when is a time where like you're like, actually it needs to be like this, but not like that?
I think that's a really interesting kind of conversation. I think that, like, we can talk about this on a high level, and then there's lots of different kind of nuances that take place, obviously, within kind of different situations. But um it really is all about in context. So I think bigger companies might be listening to, like, so the company that I work with at the moment isn't a huge marketing department, so it's easier, in my opinion, to be aligned, because there isn't many people involved. So from the outside, you could be looking at that going, well, yeah, but I work in a company, an enterprise company with hundreds of people in the marketing department, and I'm responsible for email marketing. So I'm not the VP of marketing. I don't go to the VP of sales and have those alignment workshops, or I don't have that kind of the meetings that need to get buy-in. But I think it's about taking your role and looking at it in this context. So what can I be doing as the email marketer, or one of probably the many email marketers, that is aligning with this. So it is using the CRM, it is creating a clear thread of what people have interacted with and how that system interacts with the sales system, or how that information is passed across. So each person having their role within this. That's probably almost the opposite of the question that you asked. Of like, how does it not work? Is thinking that I think the biggest barrier is thinking that won't work for me, when actually it can. It's just looking at the very practical ways in which that applies to your role. And it will, because all of marketing is for the same purpose. If we're working, and I suppose that's the whole idea of the revenue team, is that we're working together. And so marketing shouldn't be off silo doing something that the sales team wouldn't care about. So I think it's just kind of, yeah, it's more that turning it on its head, rather than like, I don't think it should just be a priority for a lot of, well, for most teams. And then like I said, once you unlock that, it's not only speaking to the sales department, or the VP of sales, and who's in charge and kind of heading up that stream. It unlocks all the things that you want it to unlock in terms of, finance, and the ability for people to not be so heavily scrutinized. Because I think that's what I hear as well, and probably you hear, the marketing department, it's always unfortunately the place where people look to first with layoffs, with all of that. It is the most, okay, well, it can be viewed as the spend department, can't it? So it's like undergoing that, and kind of getting beneath the skin of having relationships that will help to negate any of that, if you've prioritized that relationship, and kind of enable them to understand what you're doing from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I want to call back to something that you said at the very beginning, is that it is that universal understanding of the ICP. It is being
Yes.
crystal clear
Hmm.
on who you're trying to get to, and how you're trying to resonate with them.
Yeah.
And I think that was something in our, one-to-one that like you really articulated very well, was that, you know, everything falls apart, whether you're at a small company or a large company, if you aren't crystal clear on the ICP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. um I think, and that's the first step, isn't it? Like, if you brand new walking into a marketing department, and it's day one stuff, isn't it? It's like, okay, well, who is our ICP? We need to get clear on this. The first thing you do when setting up a lead generation campaign is defining that audience and how you reach them. And there's so many things that need to be considered. So it's not just like, or ordinary targeting parameters of like seniority and region and things like this, but then it's everything that's included beyond that as well. So having the kind of account penetration, if you like, making sure that things, that the way that people buy these days have changed so much. So it's kind of looking at the wider buying committee, things like this, almost as the same kind of thing that I've been saying, as to like internal buy-in. You need like the CFO, the VP of sales, like all of these people behind your back in marketing. This is like what we're doing then as you approach your audience, whether like whatever it is in B2B, whether it's like B2B technology. There's so many different groups now that influence buying decisions. The buying cycle is so much longer. So it's having those honest conversations from marketing and sales. They're not, just with the simple recognition that the sales cycle is 3 months, 90 days or longer. Why are they expecting leads that are, that have just come in and downloaded a white paper to be sales ready? Like, they wouldn't, they don't expect that. So, but it's having the conversation. If there's no alignment, like if there is alignment, then you're both pulling on the same page. Like, you have that expectation
Yeah.
that's set between both. So yeah.
Yeah. And I know it seems kind of like far off in left field that I was like, yeah, about the ICP. But in my mind, it is a through line, right? Because if you're an enterprise and your
Yeah.
job is just email marketing, and the entire way to get any of our marketing to land right, to convert, to resonate, to do its job and us to do our jobs is to have that alignment from who we're trying to reach and resonate with. And this was something that we definitely kind of jammed on, was like creating the assets that matter, like answering those pain points,
Yeah.
overcoming those obstacles, or building value in the materials and assets that we create. And, that's something that as marketers, we all like, yes, that's our job. But but that consistency of the brand experience, that consistency of expectation through the funnel of like, well, you're saying this MQL isn't qualified, but this is what you told me about the ICP. And so I did all of this work to go after this type of what characteristics that make them qualified.
Mm.
Um, and it doesn't work if it's not aligned. It doesn't work if there's not internal buy-in and everyone doesn't agree on who the person or people really are.
Yeah, and you end up back at the same point, having these leads aren't good, and you filled the pipeline, and it's like, okay, we really should have done that. But it is something that gets filled in, and in small and big companies alike, it's something that you start with at the beginning of the year, or even as a new head of marketing comes in, or you're changing direction, and you look at the ICP and you define the ICP, and then it gets filed away. Or you use it for kind of campaign implementation, and then when it's passed back, that's forgotten. Whereas it really it should be a reminder every time. Like I said, kind of, you need to be talking that language. They forget what they've agreed with you, even if they were in the room and we all agreed on the ICP, and there might have been some really heavy discussion about it at the time, and then it
Yeah.
was agreed, and then you handed them across, and then yeah, it like, you need to have that thread all the
Yeah.
way through. That's like, this is what we're going to do. We're all agreed. This is what we're doing. We're all agreed. This is the result. This is what we did because we all agreed. So this is what we've got. It's all of that context that is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to do any of it without that. It's just like, yes, that.
Yeah.
That was such like a mic drop way to explain it. So shifting gears,
Mhm.
I want to kind of get your take on where the future of marketing is going. Do you think
Yes.
it's where it should go? Kind of what's on your radar right now?
Yeah, I mean, so I've mentioned like AI. Of course, you can't not mention AI these days. So when I think about like where it's going, it's obvious that so much is changing all of the time at the moment. Whether that's in paid ad spend and the influence of AI there, or search and AI. But what I think it is like, it's been a great leveler in terms of content production and being able to kind of do good quality stuff quickly. It's that efficiency. But I think that we are like at risk. I think that we should kind of keep it in mind that we're gonna, if we rely too heavily on it, in place of, say, like this kind of the younger cohort essentially, and say, well, I can do stuff with Copilot instead of using kind of people that are building their marketing career and their basic skills, that we're kind of going to look back in a few years and be like, oh, where's the next like, we've replaced that with AI. We need people that are doing the strategic thinking, because that's what we add. We're humans. I think, as like the kind of the conversation around AI is going that way, is that, there's only so much you can do without your brain. Like, the strategy needs to come from you, and kind of the real innovation and thinking and direction needs to come from humans. But we like run the risk of not developing that and kind of having the future. So I think it ties back into the alignment piece of making sure that everyone knows what we're doing, making sure that everyone knows the value of the rest of marketing. So it's like I said, kind of once you've got that buy-in, you're able to then focus on the things that matter, the branding, the things that have less visible ROI, but obviously we know as marketers are like hugely important. If you haven't got the basics of buy-in, then all of that stuff becomes much harder. Whereas actually, I think that's kind of what I think the future of marketing is. If people are now going to be like recognizing and focusing on their internal marketing, then that's hopefully going to be helping build the future with AI. Because just everything's to play for. I don't know. It's a really strange world in marketing right now.
It is so strange. It is so strange. I think that AI definitely has changed the way that we bring up the next cohort of marketers.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how I learned how to do things and how that helped me to recognize patterns and behaviors and really see what lands and what doesn't land and like be able to like decode it.
Yeah.
And I think that relying on AI to create it and then relying on AI to decipher it, I think like that kind of almost like stunts the ability to see how things are working strategically from, a macro to micro level. Because if you don't understand it on both levels, it's hard to create a strategy.
Yeah. It will, and things, the sameness. Like it likes the most common answer. Like, that's how it finds what's truth, because it just relies on what it can find and what's common. Yeah, exactly. And so then everyone's doing the same marketing.
Yeah.
Like, where are the free thinkers? And, and exactly to your point, like, how do you discern what it is meant to say if you didn't do it, if you don't know roughly what it should say? Like, do you know what I mean? Because you've done it, you've got the years experience, you've sat on the Excel spreadsheet and figured out what the conversion rates are going to be, or whatever it is, you've been there in that kind of frame of mind.
It's a strange world. What is a question someone should ask you but they don't?
So I had to think about this one for a little bit. I was thinking that people ask questions around like what should happen, like what's great, like what's the best version of it, but they don't ask about how messy B2B is, I think, which is like, which is to say that when you're in B2B marketing, there's so much that is actually out of your control. And, we're all aiming for like this a perfection, this ideal. And this is what you should do. And the funnel starts here and finishes here, and it's shaped like this. But it's very, very rarely like that it like holds true. There's long sales cycles. Sometimes people have done all of their research. We're seeing all of the kind of the common understanding at the moment is that buyers will do most of their research before they even reach out to the sales team. So from the sales team perspective, it looks like a short sales cycle, but actually we know that they're really, really long. There's all this kind of, attribution is where these days, like, it's like all of the hidden stuff. It's like, I think that we still live in this ideal, and there's still, many, many people that will be targeted on number of X, like, number of MQLs, for example, number of like the ROI and things like this. Whereas it's not like that. Like in reality, I think, and that's probably something that will, like, a lot of people will be like, yes, I know this. Like, yeah, that rings true, because yeah, I think we don't often like freely say it's a lot messier than that. Like, can I predict next quarter? Yeah, how confidently can I predict next quarter? Like, that's the real question.
Right. Oh God, it's so
Yeah.
messy. I have a friend that says if someone says that they 100% trust their data, they're lying. Like, it's just how much do you trust your data? Well, maybe you shouldn't, because it is messy.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love that answer. I think you're 1,000% right. I think there's a lot of people that agree with you. It is far more messier, and it's definitely like a puffed chest, like, oh no, like this is our funnel, this is how we do things. Well, do you? Do you?
Yeah.
Because I've seen behind the curtains on quite a few organizations, and the emperor, like it has no clothes. Like, like you're saying one thing, but you're doing a different one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why people hire us, right? Is because
Mm.
we know how to create the package,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what matters.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your insights. If someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, via LinkedIn, just search Chloe Addis and I will pop up.
Awesome. And if anyone wants to get a hold of me, it's info@Markigy, MARKIGY.com, or also on LinkedIn, chronically online. Thank you so much for joining me, Chloe. And I hope everyone can do me a favor and, do the like, review, subscribe, all the stuff that us marketers know that actually tells the algorithms it matters. Uh, and have a great day.
Thanks, Leanne.